For this episode of the Future of Marketing video series, we're talking events, and I suppose there aren't many marketers in Ireland who haven't heard of the Learn Inbound event down in Dublin. So we're lucky enough today to be joined by Mark Scully, and he's going to talk us through event marketing in general, but give us a bit of a story around how the Learn Inbound event has developed over the years. So thanks very much for coming up and joining us, Mark. Can we start by, if you can tell us where the idea for Learn Inbound came from, and in typical good marketing practice, what problem was it that you were trying to solve?
Yeah, to be honest, total stroke of luck. Like, I never ever planned to get in events at all. But I seen an opportunity though. I had been attending a lot of international conferences. I seen the quality of the lineups. I seen the quality of the content that was being shared, and I didn't see anything like that in Ireland at the time. I thought the events that were taking place, especially in Dublin, were much lower quality to what I actually had seen elsewhere. But I happened to be browsing Twitter one day, and I noticed an expert speaker in the market, Michael King, who I had seen speak at a conference in Seattle, was in Europe on Pacific dates, but he also mentioned he was looking for events in Ireland to speak at. And I realized there was nothing. There was nothing at all in the market. But yeah, I wanted to hear him speak. So foolishly, like everyone who ends up in events, I asked myself, well, how hard can this be? You know, I want to do an event. How hard can it be? You got a speaker. That's 50% of the game, supposedly. I was wrong. But I thought, okay, I'm going to throw together a small meetup in 7 days, because sure, 7 days is fine. Lead up times on events. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I went and got a venue, a bar. I went and got a second speaker who lived locally. I put it together, and I called it Inbound Dublin, and I advertised it, free tickets. I had 60 people sign up to go. I thought, okay, this is amazing. I got 60 people who are interested in learning from these speakers on this date. And I ran it, and I had, I think, over 40 people turn up to it. Right. I thought, okay, great. Like, there's demand in the market for something like this. I've seen an opportunity and I've built something. But I realized I didn't know a lot about events at all, but I somehow made this work. So I went away for a year then. I decided I'm not going to host anything. I'm going to assess the industry a bit more. And then I actually decided then to rebrand it, because we call it Inbound Dublin. You're tied to Dublin. The brand's always Dublin. So to call it Learn Inbound, more generic name. And then it launched then in January 2015, the first proper Learn Inbound event. Same kind of structure, still short keynote talks. Right. But it was still free at 10 to 10 as well. And it slowly started to build from there. Like, the problem was the Irish market just didn't have anything that I felt was of the same standard internationally. I wanted to bring that to Ireland. Okay. I seen the opportunity, it just happened at the right time, and Learn Inbound came about from there.
Okay. And what, I mean, you spoke a little bit about that Michael King was actually looking for opportunity to come to Ireland and speak. Yeah. Was that, first of all, was that model of international speakers then something that you decided on very early on, and then leading on from that, what sort of response did you get when you started speaking to international marketers about coming to Ireland for an event?
I'll be honest, like, Ireland's a very attractive location for international speakers. The majority have never spoken here before anyway. And the thought of coming to Dublin to present to an audience of marketers who maybe hadn't seen them before, and to spend some time in Dublin as a location in terms of a holiday as well, it was actually very easy to get people to come. Like, anyone had reached out to agreed to speak. It was quite fortunate in that sense that people bought into a brand that had no recognition in the industry, because we were brand new. But they liked the format, they liked the way we pitched it, they liked the location. So it was actually not as hard as I was expecting to be. So for me, to separate ourselves from other local events, it was key to get international talent to the market in Ireland who had never spoken here before, but had something different to bring in terms of the content they wanted to share. I thought it was a level above everything else I'd seen in Ireland at the time. So even now, whenever I look at it, I still have that objective in mind, is I'm trying to go beyond just having local speakers who are great, but I want to bring something new each time we do it. So raising the bar every time we host an event.
It's interesting you talk about the equity that sort of Ireland had. I mean, you hear people who are involved in exporting products and services, and they'd say, you know, they find that it exports very well, no matter what you're in. So Did you go with the confidence that that was the case, or was that a genuine surprise to you?
Confidence, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, Ireland is very attractive to anyone I'd spoken to. Like, I mean, initially the first few speakers made me realize, okay, so it's not just a marketing event, it is a location in itself that sells it to people. And slowly, as I chatted with more and more people, especially people in the American market, they were really open to coming to Ireland for the first time. I realized, okay, you know what, even though we're only starting to build this, the fact that we have a great location is key. And I think that ultimately is what separates a lot of events. You know, if you look at even London, for example, the market's saturated with marketing conferences. London is not a selling point anymore. But Ireland as a location, there's very few marketing conferences in Ireland. And Ireland's it's such an easy place to get to for so many people, and it's quite affordable in terms of travel, and it's very attractive in terms of a holiday destination. That made it really, really easy for me. In some cases, that meant that people actually came here and paid for their own travel, simply because they actually wanted to come to Ireland. So whenever we were starting out with no budget, that actually was probably one of the key factors for us to get that kind of talent to come here.
Okay, and I mean, you mentioned that you ran the series of the free events. When did the first sort of conference come together, if you like, and talk us through how easy that was?
It was hard. Like the first event we ever held was a completely free event in Digital Hub in Dublin. We had 100 people go to it, and it sold out in a couple of days. I thought, okay, this is amazing. People actually love what we're doing under Learn Inbound name. We have 3 international speakers, and it sold. So foolishly then, I went from a free event to a paid event for the next one. It was the exact same format. It was a bigger venue, double the capacity. The tickets were €30 instead of free, and we offered a free drink and food this time. And I thought, okay, this is just going to sell, because we had built up an audience, built up trust, and we had put out the videos which shown the quality. That was the hardest event I've ever tried to sell in my life. Right. We actually sold, I think, 30 or 40 tickets for a venue that holds 240 people, shifting from a free event to a paid event. So that was a wake-up call there and then. And then we maintained that venue for the next one. We tried the format again. It got a little bit easier as we started to build trust again. But then we shifted to a full-day conference that October, I think. It was a one-day conference with 10 speakers, another venue again. So we actually shifted within like 9 months from a small free event in January through to hosting a full-day conference that October. But it wasn't an easy journey along the way, you know, and I think that's the key thing here is start small and don't make the mistake I made of actually shifting to a full-day conference until you actually have that brand in place and you build up that trust. I tried to do 4 events in my first year, which was probably the most difficult learning curve I've ever had in my career. So I actually shifted that fast. But I realized pretty early on that if you start free, people expect it to be free. Yeah. So that was probably my biggest mistake actually, was making a free event for the first one. It did have all the benefits to marketer. It gets you an email audience. It gets your brand out there. People will actually share it with one another because it's free. But you can't change that mentality very easily. And I think that's what made year one so hard for us, is because I actually had given away the best thing for nothing.
Okay, and that set an expectation then?
Set an expectation, like that's extremely hard to get out of then. Secondly, like I actually had all the talks professionally recorded, video. Okay. But we actually made the videos available within a couple of days post-conference. Now, we know that video is great for getting your brand out there. It's great in terms of content. It really sells in that experience that you can get. But because we actually published it so close to the actual event date, it meant that people were less willing to pay for tickets for the next one now. Okay. So that's also a learning curve, which now I'm actually realizing that so far on. It's built an audience internationally. It's helped us get speakers, but it's actually made it much, much harder to sell tickets.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you talked a bit about the experience and how it developed from the start to where it is now. I mean, it's now a 2-day conference. How many people did we have there in August at the Aviva?
We had over 500 people turn up to it. Like it was a brand new venue, so we moved to the Viva Stadium from the Mansion House.
Yeah.
It gave us a lot more space for exhibitors and allowed us to run like topic tables and things like that throughout 2 days. But like it was a lot of work to get to that point. You know, like going back 5 years ago to the Five Force little tiny meetup where I had 40 people, through to going to 500 people. I think people don't realise there's so much graft that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
For a 2-day conference like that, you're starting 12 to 18 months out, really, because you're trying to get the right speakers. You need to get the right people speaking at your conference to really make it compelling. You need to ensure that you get the right venue, and some venues you need to lock down at least 12 months in advance. You need to think about all the different mechanics to go in terms of digital marketing campaigns. You need to think about, you know, all the logistics. So like even though we got 500, and I think it went pretty well for us, there was so much work that started like I think early last year to get to that point. So
Do you I mean, you mentioned that Ireland was a good location. I mean, I was down at the one in the Aviva, and I was in Mansion House before, and they were both fantastic events. I agree with you that the Aviva, there was obviously more space, and it just felt like there was more space.
yeah.
Do you think that the selection of the venue is a really important consideration when you're running an event like that as well?
Yeah, it's whenever you become an event organizer, I think you look at a space completely differently than you had before. And I think Dublin especially has quite limited venues available. Like the Mansion House for us had great lighting, but then the cost per rental per day was significantly higher than the Viva. But then the Viva had more space for exhibitors, it has more opportunities for networking, it had all of that, but then the logistics and the technical setup wasn't quite the same. So the venue is key in so many ways because you're trying to craft that experience throughout the conference. You want to make people feel comfortable, you want to make it so you have accessible bathrooms, you want to make it so everything's well signposted, you want to make it so there's areas for your speakers, a green room. Like all those things you're taking into consideration throughout that. So like your venue, if you get it wrong, if it's in the wrong location, people can't commute to it. It doesn't make the technical setup of the conference easy for you. It adds on so much cost then. And like we had to retrofit that venue with so much to make it the standard we needed. So like the cost per rent was significantly lower, but then we're bringing in an external AV team. So the venue, like if you get it wrong, it can completely destroy you in terms of profits for the conference. So key, so important.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you about, and I mean, I know I briefed you on most of the questions I was going to ask. This is one that I didn't, but I'd like to talk to you about it because I think it's a really interesting decision that you've taken around the whole inclusiveness of the event.
Yeah.
And is it the Ask Angela?
Ask Angela campaign.
Ask Angela campaign. Can you tell us a little bit about where that came from and what problem was it you were trying to fix there?
I realised from chatting with a lot of industry experts and from chatting from industry peers, there's a lot of tech conferences especially where certain things have happened or things have been said and there's absolutely no process in place to deal with it. Whether not be men or women misbehaving, whatever it is, I realised, you know what, there's very few conferences, especially in Ireland, I don't think anyone's taken the lead on this, to actually make it a very safe environment for people to actually enjoy the conference, feel like there's support available, ensure that there's a process in place whereby if something happens, it's tackled. And for us, like, it actually really came into effect once something actually did happen last year for us. Like we had, I think, 6 cases of inappropriate behaviour, which then we distilled down to 2 people who were behind it. And only because we actually drawn attention to this happening on social media publicly, even though it had never been called out by anyone, we realised then other people came forward to chat with us, which then they actually sent us evidence of what happened. Some of it was WhatsApp messages that were sent, some were Instagram posts, some were inappropriate invites back to a hotel room. Like things like this had happened and realised people don't feel comfortable coming forward about this. So the best way to give a safe environment is to ensure that you're seen as the organiser to take the lead on this, that you actually have this process in place to tackle it. Like we make it so there's a mobile number on all wristbands and all signage. It goes straight through to our team. You can get in touch with us at any point. Send us a text message, give us a call, come to us. We also have a safe venue, or a safe place in the venue whereby you can come to us as well. And even if you just don't feel comfortable walking home alone, we'll call a taxi. We'll pay for it. It's fine. Or if somebody has said something to you and you feel uncomfortable, we'll also tackle it. I think, that's incredibly important, especially in this space, because digital marketing conferences, it's an educational experience. Why should you be made to feel uncomfortable in that? So we thought, you know what? We're tired of seeing this out there and realised that to really help our brand too and to actually make people feel warm and comfortable at our conferences, that we should probably take the lead on this. So the Ask Angela campaign came about because of that.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay. Another thing that you run alongside the conference is your technical training courses. So where did that idea come from, and how did that end up manifesting itself?
I've attended a lot of digital marketing courses over the years, and I've worked for some course providers as well. And I realised that as a marketer who's working in the industry, if you're trying to get some insights from someone highly experienced who's actually doing the job and is not just talking about the theory, it's not very many providers in the market doing this. So I thought about this and I thought, okay, who do I know who actually speak about these topics and actually share something incredibly useful and actionable? And the course came about through interest from my audience who had actually asked for this anyway. In fact, I seen the opportunity to actually build something like this in Ireland. There's a lot of certification providers, and personally, I don't think certifications necessarily reflect experience. Because I think a lot of people who are teaching these courses haven't done marketing in a considerable amount of time. So what is it for people like us? I thought, okay, this is a solution. We'll actually just work with the right people. We'll get them to structure the content based on what we know will be useful to that person going back to work the next day. And it's slowly started to build from there. We're taking our time with it. We're ensuring that the courses that we actually deliver are actually reflective of our audience and basing on demand. And we'll be launching 3 more courses next year and building upon that, and eventually moving towards online training as well. So it's only been around for about 2 years, but the fact that our audience actually has shown interest.
Do you think, I know from my experience of spending the 2 days at the conference, and you need to make sure, I know you probably don't get well rested in the few days before the conference, but I know before I go every year, I'm sure, make sure you're ready for this, because there's an awful lot to take in here. Yeah. For me, it's definitely broadened my view of exactly how much technical detail there is across so many disciplines. Yeah. So do you think of the technical courses for me almost seem like a natural evolution of, and I know leaving the courses that day, I think, there's lots of stuff going on there, but I'm definitely going to get a man in or a woman in who's going to show me how to do that, because I don't have either the technical capability or the time to learn how to do that properly. Yeah. Does it feel like it's just a natural evolution of the conference that these technical courses would then follow on from it?
I think so. If you go to any conference talk, if it's keynote, it could be 30, 40 minutes. It's a slice of a particular part of what they actually do. I think conference talks can be great, but once you strip out the intro and the funny parts, is it really a 40-minute talk, or is it more like 20 minutes of content in there? You might take 1 or 2 points, but depending upon your level of experience, you need something a bit more insightful and tactful. And I think that's where our courses have came in. And I think, blocking out those 8 hours to really get hands-on in terms of one particular element, like for SEO, focusing purely on technical SEO and learning from someone who actually worked with multi-million-dollar brands, that's great. That's something I get incredibly passionate about. And from speaking to people that come to our courses, they learn so much from that. I think with digital marketing, the world is so busy, and you always feel kind of left behind, and you always see people are learning either a new coding language or something else. To take that time to kind of just, block out 1 day of a year and actually just learn something really in depth. Like that's special. Like I mean, keynote talks, presentations at conferences are great. They give you something to kind of pick a certain topic and they kind of get you intrigued by it. But if you want to learn something a bit more tangible, I think you kind of just need to give yourself that much more in-depth learning experience. No matter why not it's a course or something else. But I think as marketers, it's such an ever-changing field and it's ever-growing that it's a really useful experience for people.
Okay. Okay, I mean, we know from talking to you there for the last 20 minutes or whatever it's been, that there's been a lot of learning since you started Learn Inbound. I mean, there are lots of people, the event space is very busy and there are people are constantly thinking of new events they can do because they remain a very good marketing tactic. What 3 tips would you give to somebody who was thinking of starting running a marketing event?
Know exactly who you're trying to target. You know, the digital marketing conference space at the moment, I'd probably say it's quite saturated. There's hundreds of events taking place at any one time. And speakers speak at so many conferences. Like I know some that speak at 30, 40 conferences per year. So your speaker lineup is not your differentiating factor here. It's not your USP. It's never going to separate you if that's the only thing you're focusing on here. So you need to know exactly who in the digital marketing industry you're trying to target from day one. Location, as we spoke about earlier, yeah, sure, it's important, okay. It would get certain people to go. If it's an international level, you're looking for people. And speakers, okay, yeah, okay, they have their own personal brands and they can pull in people. But if you're doing it just to build a conference, a digital marketing conference, you're going to fail. So from day one, think about exactly who you're trying to target. Is it a technical conference? For example, I've seen a couple of technical SEO conferences and there's one in Boston, which is amazing. And like, I think that's one of the few in the world. So they want people who maybe have 3, 4, 5 years experience in technical SEO. That's very unique. They know exactly who you're trying to get to. It makes it so all the marketing and everything around it, it all leads off that. So they know what they're doing. They know exactly how to target, which sponsors to go after. They know, okay, these 5 companies in digital marketing tool space, they're a perfect fit for us. And it's easy then to get them on board and actually give money towards it. So from day one, know that. You're going to fail if you don't know that. 2, start early. Like I mean early. Okay, like I've learned this the hard way. No matter what time you think it's going to take to get your conference ready, double it. Honestly, you'll thank yourself because those dark evenings and nights when you're crying alone in your room about the lack of ticket sales and lack of sponsorship, you'll be thinking back to that day when you made that decision and you'll hate yourself for it. So double your time. If it's a single day or a 2-day conference, give yourself 12 months. Realistically. I know people can be like, oh, but I can do it in 6. Make it 12. You'll thank yourself. There's some events like I've ran and turned the whole thing around 12 weeks. And throughout those whole 12 weeks, I hated myself, especially the last 3 or 4 when ticket sales are not hitting the right amount that you need. And you think, oh God, I'm getting invoices from suppliers. I can't pay them because I don't have ticket revenue coming through. Yeah. And it's very hard to secure sponsorship because certain time windows in the year that companies have budgets available. So start early, start having those conversations early with venues, with suppliers, potential sponsors, potential speakers. You'll make it so much easier on yourself, and at least then if you know it's not a doer in terms of hitting that revenue goal, you can get out early. But if you give yourself 5 little time frame and people start committing to flights to come internationally to your event, you're going to be the worst person in the world if you cancel that event or things don't go right. Because there's certain expectation in place, especially with international speakers. They're booking their flights probably after you've confirmed them. Okay. Now, if it's 12 months out, there's more of a chance that you can cancel and be no cost to you. But if you get and you plan by short notice, you are fully committed now. You are in that dark hole. And trust me, I can talk about this later, but I've had so many dark moments trying to organize conferences and events. And a lot of it came down to purely time. So start early, really, really start early. I can't emphasize that enough. Yeah. 3, the most important thing is think revenue first. And I'm not talking about this as building events just purely for money either. You know, everything you're going to start to focus on is building your brand, building a great community around that. Like these are all important elements, which I can talk about. But ultimately, the mistake I made early on is not looking at the numbers. You have to make this commercially viable. Unless you're working in a digital agency and you're launching an event on behalf of the brands and the KPIs around brand building and actually generating business leads, etc. Think revenue first. You need to assess and you need to monitor every single cost. The venue, okay, it's $3,000 for one day. Okay, but if you chat with an external AV company, how much are those LCD screens? Okay, you want to record it, how much is a video production company? Get these costs early, and if needs be then, think about the cost per ticket off that. I've seen so many events outside of even our own have actually failed because they haven't actually accurately looked at this. They're struggling to sell tickets and they're panicking and doing the things like extending early birds and flash sales, all those gimmicky things which I really hate, and I can't talk about that. It really bugs the crap out of me when I see so many flash sales, or we're rewarding you as a loyal email subscriber of an exclusive ticket type. But I would translate that as, we are not selling tickets, we're screwed, please buy a ticket.
Do you think that comes from your experience as an event organizer? Or, because I do the same, I see that and think, there's no tickets selling for that event. Is there a danger sometimes that it looks like there's too many offers because people think people need a reason to buy? I mean, in my experience, is it yours? All the tickets sell in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's the thing though, right? You'll have your loyal customer base who will buy early because they love you, they know what to expect, and they'll buy at that super early rate. And sometimes you get super excited then because you're like, oh God, I sold so many tickets here. But then there's going to be that lull. Now that lull period, that's a depressing period because no matter what you do, people are still not buying. But then you say the ticket type is ending and you do the countdown clock and GDN ads, dynamic GDN ads, and you do your email campaign to people and you're saying you got 12 hours left to buy. Then you see again things to pick up, but then you go through a quiet period again and you ramp up the ticket price. Like that's the struggle right there. But the thing is, and this is the main problem I have with the conference space right now, and I include Learn Inbound Marketing right in this bucket, is I think that type of messaging now is overdone. And I'm sick and tired of seeing flash sales. Like there's a tech conference, which I won't name, it's in Europe. It's not too far away from here. And I think was it for this year's conference, every time I went on the website, they had a 24-hour countdown flash sale. But every day when I went back on, the clock had reset. It was not 24 hours.
It was a DFS sale.
I don't say anything. But like it's the exact same thing. It's like, but say I paid that higher price point a month ago. Yeah. But then I come onto your website because I just want to view the schedule or speakers and I'm seeing this price point. Am I going to buy for next year? Unlikely, or I'm going to wait until I see this offer again. So you've killed your cash flow right there. You've actually made so your audience does not trust you.
Does that come from, from you're in that dark period? I mean, I'm speaking from experience with the future marketing events here. You're in that dark period where it's 3 weeks and nobody's bought a ticket. Yeah. And the temptation can be to make a bad decision. Then at that point think, let's fire a discount onto this. But you need to respect the people that have already bought tickets and the future reputation of the event. And you just have to hold and stay confident that the people will build it and they will come, almost mentality.
It's kind of like, that in cartoons where you have like the devil on one shoulder and you have like there is that moment, you do know, right? You're telling yourself, gotta protect the brand. Gotta protect us at all costs, because ultimately, if I do damage here in terms of doing shitty marketing, I'm never going to recover from this. But then you got over here whereby you got suppliers like, that 30-day invoice is overdue for payment. And you're looking at your Stripe account, whatever, and you're thinking, oh God, I got nothing paying out for the next 7 days. And then you look at your bank account thinking, oh my God, I'm in overdraft limit right now. Like that's, you're like, which one do you listen to? And at that point, you probably will do some kind of tactic of, like before, when I was walking here, I got an email off a digital marketing conference in Ireland saying there was a Christmas offer on, right? Post Black Friday, special offer because it's coming up to Christmas and we're going to reward the audience. And I thought, this is such shitty marketing right here. You know what? Like, and that's the type of thing right there. Like, don't put out educational content. It's all about ticket sales, selling tickets, and exclusive offers and all this. But I don't think you'll ever build a brand or an event with this approach. And it's the one reason, it's the key thing I'm looking at for next year is what can we do that's different? And I have come up with a solution to that, which is different in please buy our super early bird tickets because it's going to end by X date. Now we're on the early bird ticket, then we're on our standard ticket, then we're on to our latecomer ticket, then we're on to, like, I mean, why are we all doing this? Who the hell came up with the bird ticket type anyway?
Yeah.
You know, well, like, it's just, that's the way it is right now. And that's why thinking revenue first at the beginning is what avoids this. And like, I've done so many like dynamic GDN ads which count down to a ticket type ending. I've done so many email campaigns about ticket type ending. I've done exclusive tickets, and I've done all this. But the reality is that all stems from not actually thinking about profit. If you actually know your costs up front, you will then actually, in terms of stage your marketing around hitting those ticket thresholds in terms of selling tickets. You'll also know I need to secure 30 grand in sponsorship revenue from the beginning to be financially viable. Now, if you need to sell 70%, 80% of your tickets to break even, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen, because most conferences, realistically, and I've chatted with a lot here, sell about half their tickets and the other half are given away to people. That's the reality here. And I know as a conference organizer, you look at social media, so many conferences will say they've sold out because it's nice narrative to say you've been sold out year on year and you've grown it, but the majority never do. So if you as a conference organizer comparing yourself to what you see in the industry, you are going to dig that hole. And I have dug that hole so many times. So you need to think from the beginning, here's my P&L, here's where I'm at in terms of what the cost will be, and here's what in terms I need to sell in terms of tickets. Think realistically here and start small, and that's the key here, I think, is to start really small with what you're doing and to test it. Unless you're 100% confident that you can grow that and sell the tickets for the next one without making a loss, don't do it. There's no shame in actually taking your time here. I think that's what I learned with Learn Inbound is I jumped from a free event into a paid event, and then I ramped it up to a full day conference, then I ramped up to a 2-day conference as a small team. But if I actually been smarter and slowed down and took my time, it probably would have been easier. But I think those are the 3 things I'll come back to is you really need to actually know who you're speaking to. Who is it? Like, what's unique about your event? It's not the speakers. It's not the venue. Anyone can take them. You know what? That's what you have to be careful of here. Secondly, like, I mean, you really do have to think about, are you actually going to hit in terms of the revenue that you need from this? And I think that's where the excitement around events comes from. People actually think it's easy because so many other people are doing it. But the truth is, like, you're going to go through those dark days and you'll thank yourself if you give yourself more time. And you're actually thinking about, you know what, these are my actual costs.
It's strange for me because, I mean, anybody who's experienced running events always talks about, you know, the complexities of it and how difficult it is and how every time you learn something new, I assume you will continue to do them.
Yeah, like, I mean, no matter how hard you get beaten down and no matter how many dark periods you go through as a conference organizer, and everyone goes through those moments of, oh Jesus, no one's going to turn up, oh God. And like that every single time, or you'll think something's going to go wrong, but yet I'd go again because there's a certain buzz, isn't there? Like, you actually stand at the back of the room and you see people have turned up to something and you see things start to click together that you've been working on for months. And especially when you get the videos back from the event, you think, you know what, this is really compelling, now I can actually enjoy it myself. You look through your social media mentions, and I'm the type of person that will actually sit till like 5 o'clock in the morning going through every single hashtag mention. And anyone that's not replied to by whoever's managing our account, I would actually personally reply to them because I get buzz off that too. But then I'll go again. So, like, even though I've actually spoken about anxiety and depression, what events have led me to, I'd still somehow find a way to get back to. That's why, like, already I'm looking at next year, I have like about 20 events planned.
Just taking it easy next year then?
Like, even though this year has been a challenge, like, so I think it's a little bit addictive, especially when you start to see the positive sentiment around your brand and you start to get that feedback from the people that came and your speakers and everything else. It's an addictive game, but I think you need to care for yourself first and foremost. I think that's the one thing I've learned is self-care. Like, you really do need to realize what are those pain points that lead you down that path and how can you avoid them, and also be nice to yourself post-event, because for a major conference especially, for a good week or two, you're broken. That's the reality of it. You are broken as a person. can you schedule things in advance to go out post events so you don't have to worry about it? Are there people around you that can actually assist you? Do you just want to sit on your sofa for 2 weeks eating pizza and watching Netflix? That's also fine. I've been there. You know what, you just gotta know that, and I think no matter how addictive, no matter how much you want to commit to doing a lot of events, just be mindful of yourself and look after yourself, because it is a 5 stressful job. I think there's a number of studies that have said it's one of the most stressful jobs in the world, organising events. I do argue, and people will argue back saying, yeah, but you're doing nothing the rest of the year. It's like, that's not true. You know? But like, yeah, definitely do enjoy it then.
Okay, great. Okay, Mark, thanks very much for coming in. That was a really interesting conversation, and hopefully everybody watching agrees.